Billionaire CEO's son calls poor girl mom. His investigation uncovers a painful truth. Miss, you're my new teacher, right? She smiled, kneeling to meet his eyes. That's right, and you must be. He didn't let her finish. You look just like my mom. You even smell like her. Her breath caught. What did you say? Behind them, the other kids played with paint and blocks. But the boy only stared at her, unwavering. You are my mom, aren't you? She laughed nervously. Sweetheart, I think you've got the wrong person. And then she heard a voice behind her. Cold, male, commanding. No, Miss Lane, I think my son may be right. She turned and came face to face with William Hart, the billionaire CEO. His eyes were locked on the bracelet around her wrist, the same one his dead fiancée wore 6 years ago. And from that moment on, everything she thought she knew about her life began to. A familiar stranger. She'd only taken the job because rent was due and the electricity had already been cut off twice. Austin Country Academy, the kind of school where 5-year-olds had designer backpacks and teachers got background checked down to their blood type. Charlie never belonged there, not really, but they needed a last-minute substitute. And her credentials were clean enough. She wasn't thinking about fate that morning, just about not spilling coffee on her only decent blouse. So when the little boy tugged her sweater and called her Mom, she laughed. A soft, awkward, too loud laugh. Sweetheart, I think you've mistaken me for someone else. But he didn't blink, didn't flinch. You smell like her. My grandma says our nose remembers things our brains forget. Charlie froze. Something about the way he looked at her, like she was both safe and sad, made her stomach twist. What's your name? She asked. Noah Hart. The name didn't ring any bells. And yet, it echoed through her ribcage like thunder in an empty room. Later that afternoon, she asked one of the aides where Noah's mother was. The woman hesitated, then whispered, She died years ago. Car accident. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't say that around his dad. The CEO, William Hart, he doesn't like sympathy or small talk. Charlie didn't ask again, but she noticed Noah staring at her in the cafeteria. In the hallway, during circle time, not like a crush, not like a kid, like he knew her, like he remembered her. And every time he smiled, her chest pulled tight, a feeling too big for a first meeting. That Friday, she stayed late to organize crayons. She was wiping down a table when someone cleared their throat behind her. She turned. It was him, William Hart, Noah's father, the CEO, the man whose face was on magazine covers, whose clean energy tech made him one of the youngest billionaires in Texas. He looked even colder in person, hands in his pockets, tie loosened, eyes like blue glass. But it wasn't his presence that stunned her. It was the way he stared at her wrist. She followed his gaze and saw it, the bracelet. 3 tiny silver stars, a gift from her aunt. Or at least that's what she'd always been told. Where did you get that? He asked, voice low and sharp. She hesitated. It's mine. Why? He didn't answer, just stepped closer. Then he whispered, my fiancé was buried wearing that bracelet. Charlie's heart stopped. That's not possible, she said. I've had this since college. My aunt gave it to me. His jaw clenched. What's your name? Charlie. Charlotte Lane. He took a step back like she'd slapped him. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Run a full background check. Charlotte Lane, lives near South Congress. Kindergarten teacher. Cross-reference with Clara Dawson. He looked at her once more. Don't go home alone tonight. And just like that, he was gone. That night, Charlie sat in her tiny studio apartment and stared at the bracelet. Her aunt had given it to her when she came out of the hospital. After the accident, after the memory loss. You're strong, Aunt Marlene had said, and safe now. That's all that matters. But she was starting to realize something. She wasn't safe. And she wasn't alone. Because somewhere in this city, a powerful man was digging through her past. And a little boy with sea glass eyes was still calling her, Mom. What if the life she remembered wasn't hers at all? Chapter 1. The boy who knew her first. The first time she saw him, he was sitting cross-legged on a dinosaur carpet, building a rocket ship out of mismatched Legos. He had this seriousness about him, his little brow furrowed. Like even at 6 years old, the world expected too much. The other kids giggled and shared stickers. But he built in silence, like he was preparing to launch himself far away from all of it. Charlie knelt beside him. "Hi there, I'm Miss Lane. I'm filling in for Miss Harper. What's your name? Space engineer?" The boy didn't look up. "You're not Miss Lane," he said. "Oh," she smiled. "Then who am I?" He paused. One beat, two, then slowly turned to her. Eyes fixed, unblinking. "You're my mom." The words were gentle, matter of fact. He didn't say it like a question. He said it like a truth the world just hadn't accepted yet. Charlie felt the air change, like the fluorescent classroom lights flickered behind her eyes. I think you're confused, sweetheart." "No," he said. "You smell like her." He sniffed again. Lavender, and something warm, like pancakes. A couple of the other kids looked over. One girl snorted, half laughing. Charlie tried to keep her voice light. "Well, I do like lavender," she said, "and pancakes are my specialty." He nodded solemnly. "Then it's you." She reported it casually in the afternoon notes. Just a harmless detail under notable student interactions. But it wasn't harmless, because when she went home that night and looked in the mirror, something inside her cracked. Not pain, not joy, something more dangerous. Recognition. The next day, she tried to avoid him. Not obviously, but she assigned him to the quiet table, gave him extra math worksheets, pretended not to notice when he watched her like she might disappear. At recess, he ran up beside her. "Miss Lane?" "Yes, Noah? My dad says I shouldn't talk to strangers." "That's good advice." He frowned. "But I don't think you're a stranger." She knelt to his level. "Noah, I'm not your mother. I'm your teacher, and I care about all of my students, including you." His voice lowered. "But I know you. How could you?" she asked gently. "We just met. Because I don't forget people who make me feel safe." That night, she tossed and turned. The bracelet around her wrist felt heavier than usual. It was silver, 3 stars. She'd had it for years. Her aunt said it was a gift from an old friend, that it had no special meaning. But Charlie wasn't sure she believed that anymore. On Friday, everything came undone. The school held a family welcome picnic. Parents arrived with fresh pressed shirts, yoga pants, and electric SUVs. Charlie stood near the juice table, handing out allergy-safe cupcakes. That's when she saw him. Tall, cold, alone. William Hart, Noah's father. She recognized him instantly, his face on Forbes. The local news, the Hart Tech Tower across town. He was the kind of man who made noise without sound, who entered a space and made people step back just to breathe properly. He didn't approach her right away. He watched her first, like he was reading something beneath her skin. When he finally walked over, she braced herself. "Miss Lane." "Yes, Mr. Hart?" He didn't respond. His eyes locked on her wrist. "The bracelet. Where did you get that?" Her heart thudded. "My aunt gave it to me after I got out of the hospital. Years ago." "What hospital?" "St. Mary's. I had an accident. They said I hit my head. I don't remember much before that." He nodded once, like something inside him had clicked. "My fiancée," he said quietly, "was wearing that exact bracelet when she died." Charlie staggered back a step. I'm sorry. That must be a mistake. Her name was Clara Dawson," he said. 6 years ago, she vanished. The police said she died in a river accident, but her body was never recovered. She was pregnant." Charlie's breath caught. "What are you trying to say?" He stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. "I think you're her." She ran. Not far, just to the edge of the parking lot. The sunlight burned her eyes. Her legs trembled. She didn't believe in past lives, in fate, in stories where lost love returned like a boomerang. But her hands were shaking, and her bracelet was too tight. And there was a little boy calling her Mom, who wouldn't stop smiling like she was the only thing he needed in the world. That night, she pulled out the old hospital file her aunt kept in a shoebox. It was sparse. 1 intake form, 1 release note, diagnosis, head trauma, mild amnesia, no known emergency contacts. The release name, Charlotte Dawson. Not Lane. The next morning, she didn't show up for school. She took a cab to the Hart Tech building instead. Security stopped her at the front, but William was already waiting. He didn't ask how she found him. He just handed her a folder. Inside, a photo of Clara Dawson. The woman looked like her. Exactly like her. Same eyes, same hair, same half smile that curled up more on the left. She was pregnant in the photo. Behind her, The same lake where Charlie had once woken up soaked and terrified. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You don't have to," William said. "You just have to tell me the truth. I don't remember anything before I was 24. Then let's start there." She opened the folder further. Another photo. A baby. And then a note. "Noah, born January 17th. Emergency delivery. Mother unresponsive." Charlie staggered. She'd always wondered why she woke up with surgical scars. Why her aunt cried when she thought she wasn't watching. Why some nights she dreamed of lullabies she didn't remember learning. William said nothing. Just waited. Finally, she looked up, eyes filled with something between horror and hope. "Are you saying I left him?" William's voice cracked for the first time. "No, I think someone took you from him." What happens when you're asked to be the mother of a child you don't remember but already love? Chapter 2. You smell like her. Charlie never returned to school that Monday. The official story was personal leave. The truth was harder to define. How do you walk back into a classroom and teach counting songs when your entire identity has been rewritten in 72 hours? She sat in her apartment, the bracelet on her wrist like a shackle, flipping through old photo albums that didn't exist. Every memory she had, every birthday, every childhood friend, was secondhand, planted, fuzzy. She didn't even trust the name Charlie Lane anymore. And somehow, a 6-year-old boy already knew that. William came to her apartment the next morning. He didn't knock right away. He stood outside for 20 minutes, watching her through the cracked blinds as she boiled water, reheated leftovers, stood motionless at the sink with her hands submerged in soap. When she finally opened the door, neither of them spoke at first. Then he said, "You make your tea the same way she did." She blinked. 1 sugar, 2 drops of milk. You pour the water clockwise, not straight. She hadn't realized she did that. He stepped inside. His eyes scanned her tiny space, a modest 1-bedroom with an old couch, stacks of teachers' books, and a thrifted floor lamp in the corner. The kind of life you build when you have no safety net. "Why are you here?" she asked. "I don't believe in coincidences," he said. "I had the bracelet tested. And it's the original, custom made, same scratch behind the center star." She didn't speak. "I ran your prints. Your hospital files were sealed. Too clean, too missing." Charlie's mouth went dry. "You think someone erased me?" He nodded. "I think someone didn't want you to remember." Noah's voice echoed in her mind again. "You smell like her." The scent wasn't perfume. It wasn't even anything she put on. It was just her. But he knew. Children know things grown-ups don't. William handed her a folder. Inside was a single photo. Clara, her, holding a newborn. Her smile full and exhausted. She was wearing the bracelet. Charlie swallowed hard. "What happened to her?" she whispered. "You mean what happened to you?" She nodded slowly. "I don't know," William said. "One night, you went for a walk and never came home. They said you fell. The search was called off after 2 weeks." "No body?" she asked. "None, but they found Noah, crying alone in the grass by the lake. His DNA matched yours." Charlie closed her eyes. Her body had known that name before her mind could catch up. "Noah." William stood. "I have a question," he said. She nodded. He stepped closer. "Why did Noah pick you out of a crowd of 30 teachers and call you Mom?" She didn't have an answer. But the tears in her eyes were already forming. That night, she dreamed of water, of wind, of someone calling her name just before the world went dark. She called her aunt the next morning. Marlene answered on the 3rd ring. Charlie didn't waste time. "Tell me the truth." Her aunt paused. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do," she said softly. "The bracelet, the hospital, the scars, my name. Who was I before the accident?" On the other end, silence. Then Marlene's voice, barely above a whisper. "You were Charlotte Dawson. You were engaged to a man I never met. You were 8 months pregnant. They said you died. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because they said you'd lost everything. Because you didn't remember. And because you were safe with me." Later that day, William sent a car. Not a request. A command. Charlie almost didn't go. But something inside her, something maternal, primal, needed to see the boy again. To confirm with her own eyes what her heart already suspected. Noah met her at the front door of the Hart estate. He didn't say anything. Just walked up and hugged her. Arms small, but firm, warm, certain. He buried his face in her sweater and whispered, "I missed you." She knelt, held him tighter than she ever had anything in her life, and whispered, "I think I missed you, too." From the upstairs window, William watched. He didn't cry. He didn't even blink. But he knew that smell, too. Lavender, pancakes, and something else. Something like home. Charlie's hug with Noah. Her body remembers what her mind cannot. If the body remembers love, does it matter if the mind ever forgot? Chapter 3. 6 years and a storm. The storm came without warning. Not outside, not yet. It began with a classroom and a wheeze. It was Thursday. Spring was supposed to be kind in Austin. But the pollen count had surged overnight. One moment, Noah was coloring a butterfly with soft pastels. The next, he was clutching his throat. "Miss Lane," he croaked. "It's hard to breathe." Charlie dropped her pen. "Noah?" His face had gone pale. Lips edged in blue. She didn't wait for protocol. She grabbed his EpiPen from the nurse's drawer, hit the button on the emergency intercom, and swept him into her arms. "I've got you," she whispered. "Mommy's here." She froze. The words had left her mouth before she could catch them. Noah blinked. "You remembered?" Charlie shook her head. "No, I didn't." But something deeper than memory had spoken. Something older than logic. William arrived at the hospital before the ink dried on the intake form. His black SUV cut through traffic like thunder. When he saw her sitting beside Noah's bed, his face was unreadable, cold, commanding, but his hand trembled when it touched his son's. "You were with him?" he asked. "I never left," she said quietly. Their eyes locked. For a moment, nothing else in the world existed. That night, rain finally came. Not a drizzle, a downpour, the kind that makes the streets of Austin shimmer and sing. Charlie stood at the hospital's entrance, soaked through, her borrowed coat from William's staff hanging loose over her shoulders. "I should go," she said. "Where?" he asked. She hesitated. She had nowhere, really. The apartment was just a box. The shelter her aunt gave her after the accident wasn't a home. William looked at her, then held out an umbrella. "Come with me." She followed him into the SUV. The air inside was warm, clean, quiet. "You didn't have to come," she said, clutching the seatbelt. "I did." They sat in silence as the city blurred past the window. Finally, she asked, "Why didn't you search longer?" "After I disappeared?" His jaw tightened. "I did." "Then why didn't you find me?" "Because someone didn't want me to." The house was more like a museum. Steel and glass. A minimalist dream perched on the edge of Lake Austin. But Noah's toys were everywhere. A yellow crayon lay on a marble stair. A stuffed dinosaur sat on the leather couch. This place had been cold once. Now it was trying to warm up again. Charlie stared at a photo on the mantel. A younger William, softer, smiling. Beside him, her. The woman in the photo wore her face, but freer, lighter, happy. She turned to him. "Who was I before all of this?" He didn't hesitate. "You were fire. You were the only thing I couldn't control." She laughed, small and tired. "And now?" He looked at her bracelet. "You're still the only thing I can't let go of." That night, he showed her the nursery. It hadn't changed in 6 years. Same pale yellow walls, same alphabet decals, a crib too small now, but still perfect. She walked to the bookshelf, touching the spines of books she somehow knew by feel. "Guess how much I love you." "Good Night Moon," "Where the Wild Things Are." Her hand stopped on one. She pulled it out. Tucked inside was a folded piece of paper. A letter. Her handwriting. She recognized the slant instantly. "If anything happens to me, tell Noah he was always wanted. That he came from love. That his father, even when he's angry, loves louder than anyone I've ever known." Charlie sat down slowly. Her knees gave out. She cried for the first time in years. Not from pain, from proof. She had been real. She had been loved. She had been a mother. William sat beside her. He didn't touch her, just waited. Finally, she looked up. "Do you think I can ever be her again?" He didn't blink. "I don't want you to be her again." She flinched. "You don't?" He shook his head. "I want you to be you. Whoever that is now. Whoever you're becoming. Because you're here." He paused. "And because my son already knows who you are." Outside, the rain turned to mist. The storm was passing. But inside them, something had just begun to stir. Charlie finds the letter she once wrote, proving her love was real. Her tears mark her first step toward healing. If love is written into our bones, Can it ever truly be forgotten? Chapter 4. The Truth Beneath Austin General. The walls in Austin General hadn't changed in 6 years. Still pale green, still humming with that faint hospital scent, bleach and citrus. Stitched with something more sterile. Fear. Charlie walked through the corridor like someone searching for a ghost. Or maybe searching as one. She had come alone. William didn't even know she was there. She didn't want protection. She wanted truth. Room 314. It wasn't occupied now, but her aunt had told her this was the room she woke up in. After the accident. After they told her who she was supposed to be. Charlotte Lane. New identity. New name. No baby. No fiancé. Just a scar on her abdomen and a past swept clean like chalk dust from a blackboard. She sat on the edge of the empty hospital bed and opened the folder she'd stolen from her aunt's closet. Inside, an old discharge form, one faded ID band, and a physician's name scribbled across the bottom. Dr. Levi Grant. She remembered nothing about him, but her body shivered when she said his name aloud. Dr. Grant worked in the same building. Different floor now. Private office. Well kept. Too quiet. She walked in without an appointment. His eyes widened the moment he saw her. I'm sorry. Do I? You know exactly who I am. She said softly. Or, who I was. He swallowed. You shouldn't be here. But I am, she replied, and I want answers. He didn't speak for a long time. Just stared at her, then sat down behind his desk and let out a breath like a man who'd been holding it for 6 years. They told me you were dead. She tilted her head. Who's they? He didn't answer. I remember nothing from the weeks I spent here. She whispered. Just white ceilings and darkness. No baby. No name. Just fear. You had head trauma, he said. Severe. You were in and out of consciousness. There was swelling. And you had just given birth. The words hit her like glass. But they told me I had no child. He nodded slowly. Because someone paid to make sure you never found out. The door creaked open behind them. A figure stepped in. Charlie turned, startled. It was William. He looked like a storm, jaw tight. Eyes colder than she'd ever seen them. Tell her everything, he said to Dr. Grant. Now. Charlie stood. You followed me? You're not the only one chasing the truth, he said. She wanted to argue, but part of her felt relief. He always showed up, always knew when to step in right before the ground collapsed. Dr. Grant sighed. There was a private donor. Very wealthy. They arranged for you to be transferred here after your accident near the lake. You had no ID, no memory, but someone came in person and told us to rename you. Rewrite your chart, remove any mention of pregnancy. Charlie's mouth went dry. They erased me. William asked. Who? Dr. Grant hesitated. I didn't know her name at the time. But she had authority. She paid cash, high-level clearance, said she was your cousin. Charlie's hands shook. My mother died when I was 10. My only living relative is Aunt Marlene. I don't have a cousin. William stepped forward. Did she look like Clara? Like Charlie? Dr. Grant paused, then nodded. Yes, similar features, sharper jawline, same eyes. William cursed under his breath. He turned to Charlie. Do you remember the name Shen? Charlie blinked. That sounds familiar, but I don't know why. It should, he said grimly, because 6 years ago, Shen Properties tried to bankrupt Heart Tech, and the woman behind it was your former best friend. Charlie reeled. Why would my best friend erase me? William's voice was ice. Because she wanted my son to grow up motherless. Because she wanted you gone, so she could take your place. Charlie collapsed into a nearby chair. None of this made sense. And yet, all of it did. The empty spaces in her life. The fear in her aunt's voice. The bracelet. The scars. The dreams. Noah. Does he know? She asked. Who? Noah. About me. About all this. William shook his head. He knows what matters. He knows how you make him feel. That night, Charlie sat in Noah's room. He was asleep, one hand curled around a toy space shuttle. She leaned close, brushed his hair back, whispered, I would have never left you. Baby, never. If I had known, I would have fought for you. A tear rolled down her cheek. I still will. William stood in the doorway. He didn't interrupt, just watched her the way a man does when he's afraid to hope again. Then he whispered, let me fight too. Charlie learns the truth. Her memory and motherhood were stolen by someone who once loved her. If your past was stolen, do you still get to choose your future? Chapter 5. The test that changed everything. The envelope lay unopened on the kitchen counter for 3 hours. Not because they didn't want to know, but because they already did. Truth doesn't always wait for proof. But William needed confirmation, and Charlie needed peace. So the envelope stayed where it was. Between them, like a quiet dare. Earlier that day, William had driven them both to a private clinic. Discreet, no cameras, no staff with loose lips. Noah had held Charlie's hand the whole time. He didn't flinch during the swab. Didn't cry. He just looked up at her and whispered, "This will prove I'm right." She'd choked on her own breath. And now they waited. William stood in the kitchen, arms folded, eyes unreadable. Charlie sat at the dining table, twisting her bracelet until it left an indent on her skin. Noah was asleep upstairs. Outside, the Texas sun burned through the early spring haze. But inside the house, everything was still. Finally, William moved. He picked up the envelope and held it out. "You should be the one to open it." Charlie hesitated. Her fingers trembled as they slid beneath the seal. A moment later, paper whispered free. She scanned the top line. Parentage confirmed. Probability of maternity, 99.998%. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in 6 years, exhaled without fear. William didn't speak. He took the paper from her hand and stared at it like it was a ghost. His voice cracked. "I thought I'd lost both of you." She looked up. "I thought I never had either of you." He sat across from her. For once, no distance, no posturing, just a man, a father, a human being trying not to fall apart. "You didn't leave," he whispered. "You were taken. I know. You didn't abandon him. I never would." He looked away. A muscle in his jaw twitched. "I blamed you." She nodded slowly. "I blamed myself, too." The silence wasn't awkward. It was sacred. The kind of quiet that only forms between two people whose lives cracked open in the same places. That night, Noah woke from a nightmare. Charlie rushed in before William could even reach the stairs. He was sitting up, clutching the covers. "Mom?" She froze. This time, he didn't say it like a guess. He said it like a memory. "Mom, you came back." She nodded, holding back tears. "I'm here now. I promise." He threw his arms around her. "You smell the same." Later, William stood in the doorway again. He seemed to always appear there, just out of reach. Watching, he waited until she tucked Noah back in and pulled the door softly shut behind her. They stood in the hallway, close enough to feel each other's warmth, but not quite touching. He finally asked what had burned inside him for days. "Can you forgive me?" "For what?" "For not finding you sooner. For not trusting your love. For letting another woman raise our son in your place." She reached out, not to comfort, just to be real. "You gave him everything you could," she said, "and now, so will I." They didn't kiss. They didn't hold hands. But for the first time, their pain didn't sit between them. It sat beside them, like a shadow they were finally learning how to carry together. 2 days later, Charlie went back to school. The principal offered her job back. She turned it down. "I have something more important to teach now." She spent the rest of the week learning Noah. His routines, his quirks, his bedtime rituals. He liked his apple slices cold and his cereal warm. He hated loud noises but loved thunderstorms when she sat beside him and made up stories. He asked more questions than any adult could answer. One night, as she read him a bedtime book, he stopped her mid-sentence. "Mom? Yes? Are you gonna stay forever now?" She swallowed the lump in her throat. "As long as you want me to." He nodded like that answer would hold the sky together. William watched from the hallway again. Not as a CEO. Not as a man trying to fix what he broke. But as someone realizing, they weren't broken anymore. They were healing. The DNA test confirms the bond they all already felt, but needed the courage to believe. Does blood prove anything, or is love what makes someone truly yours? Chapter 6. Before the memory came back. Some moments in life feel like they're wrapped in glass. You can see them, you can breathe inside them. But you know, deep down, they're temporary. That's what those weeks felt like. The calm before everything shattered again. Charlie had found a rhythm with Noah. She woke up early, made blueberry pancakes, his favorite, though he claimed they tasted better when made with love. They walked in the garden together after breakfast. She taught him the names of flowers she didn't remember learning. He taught her how to slow down. There were moments, small ones, when William joined. A morning coffee he brewed wrong, just to see her correct it. A hand at her back as they passed in the hallway. A look across the dinner table that lingered just a little too long. He didn't push. She didn't pull. They just allowed. One afternoon, as Noah napped, William found her in the nursery. She was sitting in the old rocking chair, staring at the yellow wallpaper like it was a mirror. "You okay?" he asked. "I keep wondering what she would have been like." She whispered. He frowned. She? The version of me that never disappeared. The version who stayed. William stepped inside, leaned against the doorway. She would have loved her son, he said. She would have stayed up with him when he had fevers. She would have read him bedtime stories in silly voices. She would have fought with me over screen time and healthy snacks. She smiled softly. "You knew her better than I did." "I loved her," he said, then paused. "I still do." That night, the moon hung low and full. Charlie couldn't sleep. She wandered through the halls, barefoot. The silk robe William had insisted she take brushing against her legs. She found herself in the kitchen, reaching for a glass of water, but her hand froze midway. The tile, the counter, the soft hum of the fridge. Suddenly it was all too familiar. Not like déjà vu, like memory. Her knees buckled. A flash. A voice. "Charlotte, please, it's not safe near the lake tonight." Another flash. A hand. Her own, holding a letter. Her handwriting. The night wind whipping around her as she climbed into her car, ignoring every instinct screaming inside her. And then, water. So cold. Then darkness. Charlie gasped. The glass shattered on the floor. William ran in within seconds. "Charlie." She was crouched by the counter, shaking. "I remember," she whispered. He knelt beside her. "What do you remember?" She looked up at him. Her voice cracked open. "Someone pushed me." He froze. "What?" "That night. I didn't fall. I didn't trip. Someone pushed me off the edge of the lake trail." She clutched her robe tighter. Her skin prickled with memory. With betrayal. "I was holding something. A letter. It was proof of something. I don't remember what yet. But I think it could ruin someone." William's eyes darkened. "There's someone who never wanted you to come back," he said. "Someone who needed me gone." Her voice broke. "But why?" Noah appeared in the doorway, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. "Mom?" She wiped her eyes quickly and opened her arms. "Come here, sweetheart." He crawled into her lap. "I heard glass. Did something bad happen?" She held him close. "Not bad, just something waking up." William sat beside them on the cold tile. He looked at the woman he'd once loved, the woman he might still love. And he said, "No more forgetting. It's time to remember everything." Charlie's first true memory returns, and it's violent. The realization she was pushed shatters the false calm she'd been living in. If someone stole your past, how do you take it back without losing your present? Chapter 7. The woman in the mirror. The mirror didn't lie, but it didn't tell the whole truth either. Charlie stood in the master bathroom, staring at her reflection. Same blue-gray eyes, same crescent scar under her jaw, same soft mouth that trembled when she was thinking too much. She looked the same, but she didn't feel the same. She'd found a photo that morning in one of William's old boxes. Clara Dawson, 6 months pregnant, standing on the Hart Estate's back balcony. Her head tilted just so, the golden light catching her like she belonged to another world. She looked fearless, unstoppable, like a woman who'd carved her place in a world built by men, and made them kneel without saying a word. Charlie touched the photo now, studying it next to her reflection. Was that really her? Noah found her standing like that an hour later. He didn't say anything, just watched her for a long time. Finally, he asked, "Are you mad at the mirror?" She smiled, eyes glassy. "No, baby, just trying to see something." "Like what?" She knelt and held his small hand in hers. "Like the woman I used to be." He tilted his head. "I don't care who you used to be. I just like who you are now." That afternoon, she sat with William in his home office, a quiet room filled with wood, silence, and regret. "I think I need to go back," she said. "To where?" "The lake." He stiffened. "Charlie, I have to. Something happened there, something that changed everything. I need to see it." His jaw tightened. "You almost died there." "I know." She met his eyes. "But I also lived. And I think if I stand in that place again, maybe I'll remember who I was." The lake hadn't changed. Still quiet, still green, still pretending to be harmless. Charlie stood on the edge of the path, the wind lifting her hair like a whisper. Her breathing quickened, her fingers trembled. She stepped forward. Then suddenly, her knees buckled. A flash. Screaming. The sound of leaves rustling too fast. A woman's voice behind her. Cold. Hateful. You don't deserve any of this. A shove. Falling. Black. William caught her just before she collapsed. He wrapped her in his arms, steadying her. What did you see? She couldn't speak for a long time. Finally, she said, she was someone I trusted. A friend. I think she envied the life I had. Later that night, back at the house, Charlie stared at the mirror again. But this time, she saw something new. Not Clara, not Charlie, but both. The woman who had fought her way back from amnesia. The mother who returned for her son. The survivor who was finally ready to reclaim what had been taken. William stood behind her. He didn't say anything, just waited. She turned, and for the first time since coming back, she let him see her grief. Not just the tears, but the aching courage underneath them. I'm not the same woman you lost, she said. I know. I'm harder now, more uncertain, less dreamy. He stepped forward. I don't need you to be who you were. I just need you to keep choosing this life. This boy, me. She didn't say yes. She didn't say anything, but she reached for his hand and didn't let go. Charlie faces her own reflection, literally and emotionally, and finally accepts that she can never be who she was. But she can choose who to become. Can you fall in love again with a life you once lost? Chapter 8. The Court and the Promise. It started with a letter. A cream envelope slipped under the Hart Estates iron gate. No return address. But inside was a thread dressed as formality. Petition to re-evaluate legal custody of minor, Noah Dawson Hart. William paced the living room. Jaw tight, tie loosened. This is an ambush, he muttered. Charlie sat on the sofa. Nose drawings scattered beside her. She was quiet, too quiet. He looked at her. Did you know anything about this? She shook her head slowly. I didn't even know I was alive until a month ago. You think I had time to hire lawyers? His expression softened. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Her voice cracked, not in anger, but in the kind of pain that comes when trust meets fear. The court date came fast. Emergency hearing, no media, closed doors. But Charlie didn't sleep the night before. She sat on the bedroom floor, her back against the wall, the bracelet on her wrist pulsing like a heartbeat she'd almost forgotten. William found her there at 3 a.m. He didn't ask why she wasn't in bed. He just sat beside her. You think they'll take him from us? She whispered. No, but if they try, they won't. His voice was firm, unshakable. Because we're not letting him go. The courtroom was gray, wood-paneled, cold, quiet except for the ticking of a long brass clock. The judge was older, sharp, no nonsense. Across the aisle, a lawyer sat smugly with a woman Charlie didn't recognize until she looked closer. The bone structure, the eyes, the one from her dreams. Her former best friend, the woman who had pushed her. Shen Avery, now draped in luxury, polished in lies. She'd filed the petition, claiming concern for Noah's mental well-being under the care of a woman with proven memory loss and unstable identity. Charlie stood. Her palms were sweating, her heart pounded, but her voice was clear. I didn't abandon my son. I was taken from him. My past was stolen, but now I'm here, and I remember. She turned to Noah, who sat between William and the court-appointed child rep. He waved. She smiled through tears. I might not remember every birthday I missed, or every lullaby I once sang, but I remember how it felt to carry him. I remember what it means to love without needing a reason. Her voice broke. And if love isn't proof enough, then what is? The judge didn't respond immediately. But she nodded, slowly, almost imperceptibly. William stood next. He didn't need to speak long. She didn't need to earn being a mother. She is one. You can't legislate blood, and you can't erase bond. By noon, the petition was denied. Custody remained joint, and with Noah's wishes clearly in favor of Charlie. The court officially recognized her status as biological and legal mother. When they left the building, it wasn't with applause. It was with something deeper. Peace. That evening, as the sun set over the lake, William brought out a small silver box. Charlie blinked at it. What's this? Not what you think. She opened it. Inside wasn't a ring. It was her old house key. From the home we built, he said, before it was stolen from us. She stared down at it, tears rising. I'm not asking you to marry me. I know. I'm asking you to come home. To choose us, on your own terms. She closed the lid, looked up at him, and whispered, I already did. Charlie wins her identity and legal motherhood back, not with proof, but with presence and conviction. What makes someone a parent? The past they remember, or the promise they keep? Chapter 9, The Second Storm. It didn't come with thunder this time. It came with silence. The kind that creeps in through phone static and strange emails. The kind that hums under your skin before you know why. 2 weeks after the custody case, Charlie woke to a gutted inbox. Cancelled contracts, frozen assets, credit cards deactivated, her teaching license revoked. The message was clear. Someone wanted her erased, again. William took action immediately. Boardroom meetings, legal firewalls, surveillance. But Charlie knew who was behind it before any evidence came through. She didn't need proof. She remembered now. Shen Avery. The woman who'd once braided her hair before college dances. Who'd held her hand when she went into labor. Who'd kissed William once, drunk and jealous, and called it a mistake. It had never been a mistake. It had been a plan. Now she was back, not with poison, but power. She had infiltrated HeartTech's global branch, set traps inside financial subsidiaries, bribed insiders. She wanted William's empire to fall, and she wanted Charlie to watch it burn. The rain returned that night. Hard, blinding, the kind that makes the world blur and bend. Charlie stood in the atrium of the estate, watching the storm roll in, the lights flicker. She turned to William. I need to end this. He nodded. You're not going alone. They drove into the city. No security, no press, just the two of them and the truth between them. At the Shen Corporation Gala, they didn't wait to be announced. They walked through the glass doors like thunder. Shen spotted them from across the ballroom. She smiled. Back from the dead again? Charlie stepped forward. Why? Why me? Shen took a slow sip of champagne. Because you were everything I pretended to be. And he loved you, even when you didn't remember. William's jaw clenched. Shen turned to him. You built your empire while I kept your secret. I could have exposed it years ago. But I didn't. Charlie's voice was sharp now. Because you needed me gone. Yes, Shen said plainly. And I'd do it again. A scream tore across the ballroom. Security had arrived, late. Too late. Shen's assistant, panicked, tried to run. A USB drive slipped from his coat. William grabbed it, inserted it into his phone. Then froze. His voice was quiet. She recorded everything, even the night she pushed you. Charlie's breath stopped. There's a video? He turned the screen toward her. The audio was faint, but it was all there. You don't deserve any of this. The sound of a struggle. The scream. The fall. Later, in a police station filled with fluorescent lighting and forms. Shen was taken into custody. Not for attempted murder, statute had passed. But for conspiracy, fraud, and racketeering. The storm, finally, had a name. And it was over. When they got home, Noah was waiting on the stairs. Did you stop the bad guys? He asked. Charlie knelt down. We stopped the pain. William stepped behind her. And now we can start again. That night, in the stillness after the second storm, William took Charlie's hand. This time, he didn't ask. And she didn't need words. She leaned into him, head against his chest. And finally, let herself rest. Charlie confronts the woman who stole her past and nearly destroyed her future. William and Charlie face betrayal and find their truth. When the storm ends, what's left of you, and what do you choose to rebuild first? Chapter 10. The Foundation. Spring came back slowly. It wasn't loud this time. There were no dramatic declarations. No breaking news. Just the scent of fresh rain on soil. The sound of Noah's laughter echoing through the back garden. And the sight of Charlie, barefoot on the porch, sipping coffee from a chipped mug William refused to throw away. They were building something now. And for once, they weren't afraid it would fall apart. The mansion had changed. Not in walls or design, but in feeling. There were crayons on the kitchen counter. Dishes drying in the rack. A bookshelf in the corner where a wine rack used to be. A candle burning low in the window like a soft promise. We're still here. That morning, Noah ran to the dining room holding a piece of paper. Look, my teacher said to write about our family tree. Charlie knelt beside him. What did you put? He pointed. Mom, Dad, me, and then a line that goes straight up and says, before everything went dark. There was love. She stared at it, stunned. He smiled. I heard you say it once. William stepped into the room behind them, still buttoning his shirt. She said it before she remembered. Charlie nodded slowly. But now I know it's still true. Later that day, William took Charlie to a place he hadn't shown anyone in years. A plot of land near Lake Austin. Empty, quiet, untouched. This was supposed to be our home. He said softly. I bought it when you were pregnant. I wanted to surprise you. She stood in the center of the clearing, sunlight slipping through the branches above. It's beautiful, she whispered. I never had the heart to build it. She turned to him. So let's build it now. They broke ground that spring. No press, no investors. Just 3 names on the deed: William Hart, Clara Dawson, and Noah. The blueprint was simple. A home with wide windows. A porch that wrapped around both sides. A kitchen with 2 sinks, because they always ended up cooking together anyway. And in the center, a study. Not for business, but for writing, drawing, remembering. One afternoon, as they painted the nursery, again, because Noah insisted his future baby sister might like yellow too, William turned to Charlie. Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you hadn't lost your memory? She looked at the brush in her hand. No, she said, because I think, if I hadn't forgotten, I might have never learned how to remember what matters. He stepped closer. You remember now? Everything. And do you still love me? After all of it? She leaned her forehead against his. I don't just love you. She paused. I choose you. That night, Noah snuck into their bed with a stuffed dinosaur and a gap-toothed grin. I had a dream we all lived in a castle. He mumbled. We do. William whispered. Right here. Charlie smiled in the dark. Because he was right. Their castle wasn't built of stone or money or power. It was built of quiet mornings, second chances, and the kind of love that doesn't need to be loud, only real. Charlie and William begin building their true life together, not out of revenge, but out of love freely chosen. Their foundation is finally whole. If your love had to begin all over again, would you choose the same heart twice? A love that chose to stay. Not every story begins with love. Sometimes, it begins with a question. Are you my mom? Sometimes, it begins with forgetting, with a name lost, a memory buried, a child waiting without knowing why. But what matters most is how the story ends. Not with revenge, not with proof, but with a choice to stay. Charlie never meant to lose her life, or her name, or her son. But life has a way of taking what we hold most dear, and giving it back when we're finally ready to hold it again. She didn't come back to be a hero. She came back to be his mother. And somewhere along the way, she remembered how to be loved, too. William Hart, the billionaire CEO feared by boardrooms and headlines, had lost more than anyone knew. But in her silence, he found peace. In her pain, he found truth. And in her forgiveness, he found himself. Some love stories begin with fireworks. Others begin with a quiet moment at a red light, a bracelet, and a boy who knew his heart before the world taught him not to. This was never about DNA, or class, or even history. It was about the kind of love that doesn't give up, even when it has every reason to. It's about the love that stays. Because sometimes, the strongest foundation isn't built of wealth or power. It's built from hands that kept reaching. From words that forgave before they understood. From a child who looked up and whispered, "You came back." If someone looked at your soul before your face, would they still recognize you as home? If this story touched you, the next one goes even deeper. See you there.